Our presenters will be joined by Professor Hugo Spiers, who is Professor of Cognitive Neuroscience at University College London and a Fellow of the Royal Institute of Navigation. Hugo Spiers has spent 25 years studying how the brain supports navigation. In recent research, he has studied the navigation skills of over 4 million people via mobile phone video game and measured the brains of London's licensed taxi drivers who need to memorize more than 26,000 street names. And actually, if I may share this, on the way in from the airport, we had the most beautiful conversation between Mario and our cab driver about navigating London. It was just hilarious. and the cab driver didn't know that he was being interviewed by a master navigator. He was just explaining how he did it, and it was just the most beautiful interview. In upcoming research, Hugo Spiers plans to travel to, right, this hasn't happened yet, to the Marshall Islands to explore traditional oceanic navigation. And maybe you then, when this was written, you didn't know how much knowledge there was here. So you can begin your conversations right here. We are asking Hugo Spiers to give us sort of a 1 minute response or explanation as to why traditional navigation is so interesting to your research, and then we'll open it up to everyone.
Yeah, hello everybody. It's a huge honor to be here. I feel like I'm sitting here amongst what I would describe as heroes, people who've got supernatural powers in a field I try and study. How do people navigate? And it's incredible. It's being here. So, and being a fellow at the Royal Institute of Navigation has been a real pleasure in the last few years, joining and being part of that. So I encourage people to join that as well. So the reflection of today is to say, I think, I work in the field of neuroscience and psychology. I'm interested in how our mind, our brain works to solve things like navigation. A lot of that is studying how people make mistakes. But most of that research, going back 50 years or so, has ignored what we've heard about today. Completely ignores the fact that humans can do what we've just heard about. It's all focused on students in laboratories doing things on computers. So one of my key reflections today is that is changing. That is going to change more substantially in the next years. And there's an awareness and what we've heard about today of the amazing skills. We're looking back into the past, but a lot of what we've heard about today is the future. And it's not just, there's an awareness here of these are amazing skills that could have been lost and being brought back to life or being preserved and will increase and will expand. And that is not just in a distant, it's underneath our feet at the moment. We're sitting on the earth, through the floor is where a lot of this is happening. But it affects us all here in the room. We're all affected by climate change and the climate crisis that's going on. We're all affected by the fact we're so reliant on technology now. And it's not necessarily a good thing. We've become very over-reliant on things like GPS. It's useful, but we can become quite lazy, I think. So what we've been hearing about today is culturally important. It's important for all of us, not just as an interesting fact or part of an academic thing. It affects all of us. And as a scientist, my aim is to try and integrate what we're doing in the neuroscience. Studying taxi drivers is one thing. But to try and find out more, to take it very seriously and think about the experiences people have and not just study people in laboratories, but to really understand the skill and experience and talk about that. So I think my mission from today, and I hope it is everyone in the audience, is to tell everybody about what we've heard today. The voice needs to get out. This isn't something everybody's aware of. So this is one of my key reflections that I'm personally extremely grateful everyone has visited today so I could hear it, but everyone here too. And I'm sure it's been lots of great questions so far. I'm going to stop going on now and pass back just over a minute summary so the audience can ask questions. But yeah, I have a million questions I could ask, but I'll hopefully get a chance later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a recipe for disaster, really, to invite so many exciting navigators from Oceania who have endless ballads to share on a very tight schedule, and then invite last minute two stern German professors to moderate that. But I think we've done well, and we have about half an hour left for questions, and we decided that we will immediately open out to the audience and see where this takes us. Oh, there's tons of questions.
Could I ask about the relationship between the wind diagrams, which you explained earlier, the wind diagrams, celestial rising and setting, and the swells, and that holistic system, and what I've seen in the Auckland Museum, which I think produced by the Maori Navigators, which is a sort of grid with seashells attached to it, which my Western mind might say, is that a map? And I've probably got it completely wrong. What's the relationship between those two different systems? Or is there one?
That's Marshall Islands.
Yeah, Marshall Islands.
Well, I don't know anything about it.
Okay, well, okay. Yeah, so it's not a map in the sense of a, modern grid map, European system map. What you can say about it is those like diagrams in natural materials are teaching devices. They don't go to sea. They're not maps. They're teaching devices for swell patterns, either between islands or that exist. What I mean is between specific islands or island groups, like showing a route of what the swell patterns are through the route, or they're just like all the swells that occur around one island. Yeah. So that teaching device, I didn't have time to show. You can look in the article in the RIN newsletter. Luke's grandfather drawing an inter-island swell pattern, complex swell pattern in the sand. Same thing. Yeah, same thing. So what was your question about it?
No, it's the relationship between that and the wind diagram earlier. Sorry.
Well,
It was for the relationship between the two.
Strong wind creates swells.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying earlier, you got these at least 4 major swell trains that occur that you can see anywhere in the Pacific. And usually 5 or even 6, because there are storms that also are strong enough and long enough to develop swells. Yeah, so, and when those swells interact with each other, crisscrossing and reinforcing each other or hitting each other, it's those develop patterns too. So it gets quite complicated, and to feel it, to become competent, to master what the different patterns are, when you feel them, when you may have no other, how often can you see precisely stars rising and setting points? It's, even in the Pacific, it's not that common. So when you have these modern systems that depend upon seeing 2 stars at their rising points and 2 stars at their setting points, it makes it pretty tough on the navigator. If you don't know the other ways to know the relationships and the calibrations between the different things that you can see or feel, then you don't have the holistic knowledge, and it can fail you, or it's extremely hard.
I think it's worth adding that those wonderful diagrams that Mimi showed us, which were done by Daniel Jackson, a friend of ours in Vancouver, are not what the Taumako would use to teach. They were made for people like us who are oriented toward the printed page and the two-dimensional depiction of what is really a 4-dimensional set of phenomena. But as Mimi has said, the only way you learn this is by getting out and experiencing it directly. The little stick charts and even Kavea's drawings in the sand and these magnificent diagrams are not how it's taught, really.
Well, thank you all very much again. It's been a fascinating afternoon. One theme that seems to have emerged from almost every contribution is that you all badly need money to help you achieve your goals. And I'm just interested to know to what extent you are collaborating on that, whether you are actually competing for funds, and what strategy you have for finding the money you need. Maybe you could also perhaps give some indication of the amount of money that you're looking for. I would find that quite interesting because some of us, like myself, who've had some experience of fundraising might conceivably be able to help.
Some have actual budgets they can tell you, and why don't we start and just come this way?
You know, our relationship, I don't know Sana. But anyway, it's actually our first time meeting each other. But we have no idea that what I was doing in Fiji, it's the same thing that this organization was doing in their respective country. But it's the first time, we see each other in what we're hoping. After when we're in Vancouver, one afternoon, we just sat down, we were yarning, and we were just hoping, and I was telling Mario and Sana.
They're not paying attention to this irreplaceable, tens of thousands of years old knowledge that we desperately need to deal with the situation in the ocean, to deal with climate change, to save the planet, basically. So I think Sana might tell you something.
Thank you. For my building of my school in Papua New Guinea, yes, I'm teaching because I'm a builder and I'm a navigator. So, my planning is so much because I have to build a classroom. I must have a transport because I have to take my students. But so if I ask for fundings, I don't know in dollars, but to my country, my currency is Kina. So if
So Modakula Kuniobu is in culture and tourism in Papua New Guinea. We were all together with Moda in Vancouver. And in talking with him, he developed a budget which only involved something like 3,000 US to build 5 vessels. Okay? But for 8 or 12 other vessels to have maintenance and be prepared for a big project, then there's another few $1,000s. And then for those vessels to basically restart the whole Kula network with a full season of them going in different directions. Yeah, 20,000. And for them to have internet to communicate with each other, or devices, in-reach type of, Garmin type devices, or anything so that they can continue. They don't have it on their islands. But how can they work together if they can't communicate? And how can they teach if they can't go over the borders? The problem is so, the policies are so against them. And that's where the money comes in. They have to communicate, they have to be able to, this is the first time out, first time anyone's hearing about them. That's why. So, you know, I mean, a little bit will help a little bit. A lot will help a lot to make it all happen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for to indicate that there's some friends out there can help. Yeah, in Taumako, for the Holaubaka Taumako Association, yeah, if you access the Holaubaka Taumako Association website, we got a constitution inside. So the constitution, there's some goals inside that we put in. So at the moment we are trying to build a school, but now we are trying to build the building. So it's like we've been cutting the timbers, but it's about 500 miles where we got to transport it to Taumako, because Taumako is a small island. We can't transport to. So we might we are looking to find some support how to transport those timbers up to the island. And to set up the school. If the house complete, we will plan to cut a new baka, and we put in that house, and we try to run the school. The school is now, we need something like this, like to put it so that children can see what's out there, and that they can see what they are doing. And we want to teach local navigation, survival, food preparation, weaving, carving, storytelling, our culture, protocol of the culture, and the rituals. So something to be in the school, so you can estimate how much. At the moment, like I'm not really good accountant to come up with but looking at that to be done. So as you know that, as Mimi said, I've been making an appointment. I talked with the Ministry of Culture back in the Solomon Islands. I face-to-face with their secretary for the Ministry of Culture, and he said government's not giving priority for cultural groups, so there's an allocation there. So we are struggling ourselves, in which me and Betty believe that that's the only way for us to sustain, to go back to the old tradition, old discipline, people to understand their culture, their islands. Now, there's sea rise, the islands now can come up, the sea rise now, and the islands start to. So we need to understand how to look after ourselves in that island. So in that school, we try to capture that, how to look after ourselves, how to do some conservation, looking at the red food. We are coastal people. We live more on the sea, and the sea is now rising up, and we're losing our beach. Already the beach will be washed. Some fish have been missing, gone. We didn't see the beds being on the island now. So how will we protect and preserve this island? Building more trees and try to not overfishing and not try to not to pollute our islands, our seas. Because this island is full of rubbish from the city. People are tempted to do a lifestyle now, so they tend to eat more rice, more food things, not like processed food. So the island is full of the things, but we don't know how to dispose it. So as for one, as a man who my last time I've been enforcing the maritime law and so the islands is really painful something to see. A lot of battery in the islands, a lot of we now going to solar system. Last 5 years we imported solar disc, solar cable, solar bulb, solar battery, the solar panel. We're excited to have a big brand like this. Refer to in comparison to the lights that we used to light on the firewood and the wood and the lamp, the kerosene lamp. So people are excited about technology, and they put on order more lights with the small battery, because that's what they can afford, a small battery. But the thing is, they don't know how to dispose it, and the only way is to dump it. You see. So last Christmas, Andros Island tried to So my plan now, if I can capture in that school, if I can bring somebody with that knowledge. Somebody to have about energy, somebody about a battery to come and tell the truth. Tell the first-hand evidence that this is, and put some pictures on the screen so that people can see it. When you say that, they don't understand unless they see some pictures. So that's something that me and Betty tried to, build the island, try to make the school. We had to make some communication. So we tried to put an internet there. But how can we do it like we are struggling and try to step by step it if you can achieve that? So
There have been a range of further questions. I want to say three. Oh, Betty, do you want to comment?
Yeah. We have been working on several projects for the Hola Vakatamako, and due to financial difficulties, some of these small projects that we were working on couldn't be finished or completed. So talking about budget, the Halevaka or the boathouse that Luke was talking about to house the tepuke and to have a training room for women to do weaving and to build the tepuke to train, like a school. That would be, now we are in transporting the materials to Taumako. So we would need about $30,000 for that to be completed. There's another project that some of our generous friends have been supporting us with, and that is for the internet connection to Taumako. Because Taumako is really distant and far from the rest of the Solomon Islands. So we were so remote that there's been no communication and not much transportation to reach Taumako. So with the help of Mimi and Meph, the PTS and them, they have helped with, Garmin communicators to communicate with, back and forth between Taumako and the rest of the community in Honiara. So now we have friends donating. They have donated the laptops in Solomon Islands with us already, but we are still looking for funds for the satellite dish, for the internet connection. So that would be about $12,000 for the dish itself, and connection, and some technical person to install the thing. So the shelter has been completed. It's only the dish that we're still looking for funds for that one. And I think 3 years ago, we were also working on a curriculum to document a syllabus that we can teach in this school. And also due to financial difficulties, we couldn't complete that. So when we were on this trip and talking about all these things, that has come back to my mind again. We did not have a budget in the last year for this one, but maybe it would be nice to include it in our future budget to, have this curriculum be completed. Maybe someone, some technical person to do that for us would be nice. I don't know how much would that involve. Thank you.
Great. Sorry, I made us go over time.
No, we're good. I just want to say 3 sentences before we continue. First, we've had many conversations over the past 4 days, and one idea was to create a more formal relationship across the 4 different voyaging schools in something like, perhaps like a society. I think one needs something formal to make funding work. Second, one of the problems with funding is you have to have a major institution very often that will be accepted by the organization one applies to, and not any of the organizations here, lives up to that. Someone has to have something bigger to cooperate with, like a university or like your institution. So it's absolutely vital to have partnerships here, and I'd really want to invite everyone who wants to be part of thinking about how one could formalize such relations to be able to apply for big funding. Write to Mimi.
Yes, and your youth can exchange with their youth. It's a two-way thing that they're open to and hoping will happen.
Yeah.
To
Third
have
sentence.
a canoe house, that means there's a space for people to come from outside.
A lot of the funding that we can apply for does not come with admin overhead money. And again, you know, for people like Anja and myself, we just don't have the capacities to take that on. So your institution, or you know, even bigger institution at universities that have admin inbuilt would be ideal. That's all I say. And we take, if you run out quickly, we have to leave the building by 5. If you run out quickly, we can take a few more questions.
Hello again. I'm going to ask a navigation question. I hope you don't mind. Just to get in lots of, I picked up from the discussion that traditional knowledge. I was going to ask whether it relies a lot on well-known weather patterns, that have been passed down, that have been remained the same, and if that's the case, have these patterns changed? And if they've changed, how has that affected the traditional knowledge that you've been working with? I'm thinking about climate change, or you know, things like that. That the winds are no longer quite the same, or you know, and how that might affect the traditional knowledge.
I think I will have a go. Yeah, thank you for that, Christina. In traditional navigation, there's no course. Instead, we have a direction. Yeah, there's no course. We only have a direction. So as we go there. Now there's a point of finger. So there's no course. No, says steer 120, no, direction. Our reference point in the normal compass, we put up north up. In traditional navigation, but for us, we put the east up. So our reference point is the sun, not like the magnetic field in the north. So we also look where's the sun. We put our right hand and we're pointing to the north. So when I take off from Taumago, I know the sun rising here, and I know I want to go to the island. So if I travel to Jerusalem, I know the sun must always disappear. No, not behind me. So that's my reference point. I know the sun will stay there, and that's the west. So we put the sun as our reference point. Yes, in climate change. I don't know what the other, but Somaliland is about 9 degrees south of the equator. 160 degrees from the deadline, the east. So I felt, I saw it in my eyes, this is a change, you see, the climate change everything now. Like we had the traditional wind campus. No? 2019, Mimi we tried to go to Vanuatu. According to that campus, the wind will come on this month. But there's no wind, things change. So as the world getting narrow, no, the ozone layer coming down, so those things will change. So we feel it back the island. For example, look at the fruits. We knew about of Kalida. This time we have the fruit. This is coming. But it's coming late. Sometimes the fruit come early. Sometimes you got plenty of fruit. Sometimes no fruit. Even the fish that we used to fishing this month, they're all gone. They hide. As I said to other friends back in the village before Christmas, take that one motor, come to get a flight for come here. So in our tradition, we have to check the weather for tomorrow. So the only in the islands what we use is to go and check the white crab on the beach. So if you see the crab not running around the beach, a footprint everywhere, there's no, they have no. Tomorrow is a good weather. If you go to the beach, there's no print. They already get shelter. I mean, tomorrow is a bad weather. But nowadays, I go check. There's no crab. But in the morning, I look at a very good weather. So it's this. So it tells me that even the crab was confused in this global morning, you know. What the changes. The other thing is, look at the navigation chart we had. It's only the area that we operated, that we had that experience. You know about the wind direction, the current, the wave. If I go further north, where the long distances were getting narrow, then I'll be confused. If I bring any animal from Solomon to here, the animal will be confused. No, they are not sensitive to nature, like it happened in 2007, the tsunami in Solomon. when the tsunami came, the sucking the water out, and the water was dried up. Everybody just look at it. People just ran to the sea. It was going on. The water was dry up. They don't know that there's tsunami. But all the pushcart, the cats, the dogs already go up the hill. They're safe. They know there's a danger. But for us, we don't know. We just run around, feed alone, keep out the fish dry, crab there now. Then when the wave come in, they still have some people, kill some people. For sure, understand. Yes, for sure, there's a changes in our weather pattern. We've been expecting that. Thank you very much.
You sure? Can take one more question, and then we need to formally close.
Thank you for a brilliant afternoon. We teach sailing over here in the UK, and when I'm teaching students, they quite often want to specialise very quickly. So they want to be an engineer, or they want to be a navigator, or maybe a boat builder, or a captain. And I have to tell them all the time, no, you've got to think big. You've got to think about all the different parts of sailing before you can specialise or before you can do these things. And I'm just wondering, for your experience as Pacific sailors, are you a sort of, how do you see the risks of over-specialisation? Maybe. Can you say something about that?
Yes, so thank you. We, from the Pacific, we're jack of all trade but master of nothing. We can do anything. As for me, I speak for myself. I'm a captain. When I did the 2 years voyage, I was the chief officer and also the youngest crew on board. Well, the oldest was 56 or 52. I have a responsibility, because most of the time when we're on shore, our captain goes for meeting, so I have a responsibility for 14 crew. And I have a responsibility because every time we go out, as soon as we go out the passage, the captain doesn't take, that's when the navigator, that's when my role as a navigator comes in, so I take over and have a responsibility of where the canoe, what course the canoe is going to take until I see our destinations, and then I hand over to the captain to take the canoe into the passage. And that's, as for me, I pretty much have a responsibility, a different responsibility while we're sailing. And it's good, it's good to teach our students to have, to specialize in all different fields in sailing. So, if you don't have anyone that, in case of your breakdown, if you don't have anyone that's specialized to do, what's happening, at least a basic training, to counter the problem. It's just not to focus on one thing, but to train to be able to do multiple tasks. In sailing, it will be an ideal of training our students. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hand over to Heu'ionalani for the closing.
Those are the first 4 verses of a 19th century chant, bidding farewell to somebody who is taking ship, not canoe, as this, which is the hauling up of the anchor chain, and the pulling of the halyards to loose the sails would indicate. of this presentation, we are now on our way home. We're not going by traditional canoe either. We're going by the big canoe that goes through the sky. But it's been a wonderful experience for all of us. Thanks to our hosts in Vancouver, in Berlin, and now here, and all of you. We're just most grateful, and we're really sorry to be leaving, but we also want to get home too. Before we do go, we have a few gifts that we would like to present to some very special people. John and Claire, would you come up? This is a container of the traditional salt from Kauai.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's made by evaporation. It's a long process, and it's very precious to us, and we hope it will be to you
Thank
too.
you.
The way you open this is you slide the top off.
I won't do
Yeah,
that
give me
now. I'm not even going to take that risk.
And,
Oh, bless you, thank you.
yeah, we also have some Kauai coffee too.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we have a special gift for Claire. Go for it, Betty.
This is a traditional basket from Tamako
Okay.
that's usually been used to put, little nut inside to share to people.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everything.
And thank you to the Royal Institute of
Pleasure.
Navigation
Yeah.
for bringing us all here. We must not forget, and that's Charlotte. Where is Charlotte? Yeah, Charlotte, we have something for you. You've been a great help. We just met you today, but it's been a brief but marvelous acquaintance, and thank you for all you did to make this success. This is also some, I hope you drink coffee. Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now, I'm going to involve all of you. Earlier it was mentioned that if you read or hear or speak the name of Lata, the first voyager, the man and woman, the dancer, the navigator, the thief, the scoundrel, the monster slayer, the murderer, the tree, and the one who cuts down trees, the storm bringer and the storm stiller, who's really been lurking in the background all this time, because Lata's all over the Pacific in all these various guises. And you, will you, nil you, have now become part of Lata's story, part of Lata's family, part of Lata's voyaging crew. So, we are going to invoke Lata in order to formally end this program. Any of you that have ever lived on a farm know that it's absolutely imperative that you leave gates the way you find them. If you open a gate to walk through it, you must shut it behind you. If the gate's open, just go. But I opened the gate at the beginning of this event. And now you're going to help me shut it, I hope. The way you invoke Lata is this kind of clapping. Stomp your feet if you want, make it loud. Yeah, here we go. Go forth and